All right. So today we'll be going over the first part of our core training. Our training is broken up into two core training sessions. So two will go over the basic settings that are turned on by default for your users. The third training is an intermediate training that gets into a lot of the fun stuff like accordions and tabs and really customizing things. And then for the fourth training, you can go one of two ways. We have an advanced training where it's getting more into playing around with the code and modifying it with our tools. And the other training is our admin training. It's our customizations course. Typically, anybody who at an institution who will be creating the templates for the institution to push out will want to take this institutional customizations training. That training and the advanced training can be taken in either order. Advanced training, we typically only offer once or twice a month, typically 2 times a month, where the customizations training, we offer it weekly, and we just go up to the intermediate level in that course. So you don't necessarily need that advanced training in order to take it. So to get started today, we'll go over a couple of things before jumping into the tools. If you are not familiar with the tools, or if you'll be working with faculty members who aren't familiar with the tools, we've come up with a few analogies to help explain the tools. One of them is that if your Canvas course is your masterpiece, the tools are the brushes and paints that help you to create this masterpiece. So they help you to create a more visually appealing and better organized course in a very simple way. Now, the DesignPlus package is composed of 3 different tools. The one that you'll be spending the majority of your time with is our sidebar. So this is what pops out when you are editing a page or you use the keyboard shortcuts, depending on your institution. And this helps you to style and organize your content without having to know CSS and HTML. This is available almost anywhere that the rich content editor is available. So your content pages, assignments, discussions, and quiz descriptions, syllabi, and announcements. A couple of places where it's not available are on individual events and quiz questions. Those are the 2 places it doesn't pop up to use. Now, I said that we'll be going over the basic settings today that are turned on by default. But as you become more familiar and comfortable with the tools, you do have the intermediate and advanced tools that you can turn on. The tools are extendable. I mentioned that customizations course where you can house all of the templates and pieces that you want to push out institution-wide, but you can also have extended customizations. So as you are playing around with the tools and going through the training, if there's something that your specific sub-account would want to create at your institution just for your users within that sub-account or the courses within that sub-account, we can set up an extended customizations course. So then your faculty members that are teaching in that sub-account will have access to the institutional and those that you've created specifically for the sub-account. That's something that we have to walk through on a call. It's a quick call, but if it's something your institution is interested in, just reach out to us and let us know. And you'll do that through a support ticket, and I'll go over those too. The second tool is the Upload Embed Image tool. This is kind of a Photoshop ultra light. It lets you do some very basic photo manipulations without having to leave the Canvas interface. So it helps you to upload, crop, and resize your images. It helps you to do some very basic photo manipulations like change the, flip the image or add in your alt text while you're creating the image, and we'll go over that. And then there's the multi-tool. This is the real time-saving piece of the DesignPlus package. This is where you can build out templates for your course. You can rapidly build out your course shell. You can edit all of your due dates in bulk in one place, or your post-dated announcements. You can edit all of those in bulk on one screen too. Now, with DesignPlus, The tools were created by Kenneth Larson, who was an instructional designer at Utah State University. And when he created the tools, he had a background in web development, and he was frustrated that creating things in Canvas weren't always the easiest. So that's as an intern, he was allowed to actually get in and play around with the school's Canvas interface. And that's where the tools came about. But when he was creating the tools, he created them with this idea of chunking content. Now, as you're adding in content with the tools, you'll be adding in the content through what we call content blocks. A typical content block consists of a heading with content underneath, and you'll be adding these individual content blocks into a Design Tools wrapper. The Design Tools wrapper is applied to your rich content editor when you choose a theme for your page. So as you're creating content, you'll have this Design Tools wrapper on your page, and you'll be adding in multiple content blocks. Now, the reason for adding in content blocks, there's a couple different reasons, both for students and for those that are developing the courses. Notice that in the background here, we can see some alternating colored blocks. Each one of these is a content block. So this particular theme breaks up those content blocks visually. So instead of just seeing a long run-on page of text, your students can focus in on these individual chunks of content, which breaks them up and divides them into much more easily digestible pieces of information. For your faculty members and instructional designers or course developers, the reason to house your content in content blocks is that it makes it very easy if you ever need to go back and delete out a chunk of content or rearrange content on your page. So I'll be showing you how you can actually drag and drop and delete out these content blocks individually. So again, that makes it very convenient when you are redeveloping a page or need to add in a chunk of content. I'm going to scroll through the different themes that we have available to you. And all of these should be set up on your instance. But as I scroll through, you'll see that depending on the school, you do have your institutional colors brought in, but also with the styles that we have, not only does having these different themes provide your faculty members a sense of creativity and uniqueness as they're creating their courses, but for your students, as they're moving from course to course or semester to semester, they're familiar with the basic layout of the course. So they're able to jump into a course and spend a lot less time learning how to navigate that particular course. So it frees up their time. They feel much more confident going into courses because there's that consistency. Now, at the basic level, I'm going to show you the different pieces that you can manipulate at a basic level. Some of these we'll be going over today. Some of these will be going over during the core 2, which is either scheduled for tomorrow or Wednesday. I'm not sure about this week, but the first piece that we'll go into is adding in content blocks. So there's 2 different types of content blocks that you can add in. You can build out your own custom content blocks, or you can also add in institutional template blocks. These are those pieces that would be housed in that customizations course for your institution. They may be pieces such as objectives and readings. They're just content blocks that your faculty members can pick and choose from to add in very quickly. And they're pre-designed and kept in that customizations course. Now, if you require, or if you have a lot of faculty members that add in objectives and readings to their page, by having these content blocks built out as templates, you are, again, creating that sense of continuity for your students, because as they pull these in, they'll be used to the format and the look of those content blocks. But for those faculty members who maybe aren't as techie and don't want to have to go through building out their own content blocks, having these chunks to just add into their page makes it very easy for them to just pick and choose from what you have available to them. They're always welcome to add in their own custom content blocks, But again, for those that are less techy, sometimes this is a more comfortable way to build out their page. Now, with the basic styling tools, we'll go over working with your images. So changing their size, their shape, adding in some borders. We'll take a look at turning links into buttons. We have a variety of different button styles and sizes. We will learn how to style our tables and how to make them accessible very easily. We even have this alphanumeric sortable table style that you can turn on. We have a variety of different list styles, both ordered and unordered, and I'll show you how to mix and match those different types of lists too to create more complex lists as needed. Between the canvas icons and an icon font we pull in called Font Awesome, we have over 2,500 different icons that you can add to your content just to give your course maybe a visual break or a little bit of playfulness as you're developing your content. Now, one of the questions I often get asked is, can our institution's logo be added in as an icon? Unfortunately, logos are usually set up as image files, and that doesn't quite work the same as a particular character within a font. So the answer to that is no, usually not, unless your institution has gone the extra step of creating a font with your logo. Now, with our HTML snippets, we do have ways to easily drop in a logo into a page, but we'll get into that more in the intermediate and customizations training. Just go ahead and pause these notifications so I don't have those popping up. With the Design Tools interface, that sidebar that pops up, there's two different ways that your institution may have this set up. Either when you edit a page, this rocket ship will show up over here in the right-hand corner. We call this the launch menu or the launch button. If you have that rocket ship hidden though, and reasons that institutions might hide that rocket ship is they want to offer a training program to faculty members before releasing that, or maybe they're just releasing it to the instructional design team. There's a variety of different reasons an institution might hide it. But if this rocket ship doesn't show up, there are two keyboard shortcuts that you can use to access the tools. One of those is Alt-Shift-D as in Delta, Alt-Shift-D as in Delta. Or if you're on a Mac, it's Option-Shift-D. Or the other keyboard shortcut, we have two keyboard shortcuts. The other one is Control-1. The reason we have two is that when we first released the tools, Alt-Shift-D and Option-Shift-D weren't keyboard shortcuts that were used on web browsers, but now one of those web browsers does use that. It adds in a little special icon, a little eye with a symbol over it to your page titles. So if you notice this little icon, then you'll want to just switch over to the other option for your keyboard shortcut. I'm going to go ahead and open up the rocket ship. You can see once we click on that, it opens up the sidebar here. I'm going to go into the 3 gears icon. This is the settings. And notice I have a toggle button up on the top. If the tools are hidden at your institution, you'll actually have 2 toggle buttons. The first one will be to unhide the tools. This is a user by user setting, so changing this for yourself doesn't impact anybody else at your institution, but it will make it so that you do not have to remember the keyboard shortcut going forward. You'll automatically have access to that launch button. Again, it doesn't impact anybody else. It only makes that change for you as a user. This other toggle though, this automatically launch tools, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And what this will do, instead of just opening up the rocket ship or showing me the rocket ship when I edit a page, it will actually open up the toolbar. So that just saves me a click and a few seconds as the tool automatically launches. If you're using the tools frequently, then it's usually worth coming in here and turning that on to auto launch. I'm going to go ahead and close out that settings box, and we're going to talk about the different sections of the sidebar. So this top row is what we call the jump menu. The jump menu lets you move quickly to different pieces within the Design Tools toolbar. So instead of having to pick around and try to find what you're looking for through the different drop downs here, the jump menu gives you quick access to that. So you'll always have the option to add or rearrange your content blocks to jump to the tools to do that, or to work with a specific element style. But notice as I put my cursor in different places within my rich content editor, this is responsive to where my cursor's at and what's housed within the rich content editor. So now I have the option to jump to working with a theme or to working with the banner text. Notice as I click on this option to work with my banner text, it opens up that section of the tool. So again, the jump menu just saves you some time from having to dig around and trying to find those individual pieces. The second row is the views row. And by default, it's always going to be set at the blocks view. The blocks view gives you a look at the structure of your content. So notice right now we can see the beginning of that Design Tools wrapper that I mentioned. We can also see with the double border here, these are individual content blocks. They're always going to have this double blue border. Our individual paragraphs have this grayscale border around them. And as we scroll through our content, we'll see a variety of different types of outlines. You'll also see down at the end of the Design Tools wrapper. Anything that you want the style applied to does need to be created inside of that Design Tools wrapper. The second view is the browser view. And notice that all of the outlines on my page have been stripped away. In the browser view, we can see that we have some empty space here between overview and try it, but it's not really clear what we're working with here. If I come over to the blocks view, again, you'll see the structure of that page, and you can tell that that empty space is 2 empty paragraphs. We can jump in and work with those or delete them as necessary. The browser view, though, does give you a good idea of what your students will see when they're viewing the content in the browser. This is an approximate view because some of the dynamic elements, such as accordions and tabs, they aren't built out in the rich content editor. They're built out once the page is saved and your students are viewing it. But it does give you a good idea of the flow of your content within a browser. Now, Design Tools is built to be responsive anywhere from a very small smartphone screen up to a full-size desktop. So of course, depending on your browser size, that can make the flow a bit different too, depending on how much width and screen space you have. The third view is the app view. Again, this is going to be an approximate view because of those dynamic elements that don't build out in the rich content editor. But also, depending on if your students are working with an Android or iOS device, they both have their own slightly different native styles, so that can change the look a bit too. But again, it does give you a good approximate view of the flow of your content in the app. The last view is no style. Notice with no style, all of the complex styling that DesignPlus is creating has been stripped out, and it just leaves the very basic vanilla HTML behind. If you were to export your course to another institution that didn't have access to the tools, then this is what you would see there. The content is all still there. It's just that complex styling has been stripped out. So it's still set up in a very usable way. You just don't have all of the look and feel that you were getting with the tools. Most of the areas within the sidebar either have a little blue icon or a link These are help links. If I go ahead and click on this little link here, it'll open up some information here inside of the sidebar. Other areas may have links out to our documentation on that particular tool, or in the case of accessibility, it may also have a link to a page such as WebAIM to get additional information on that accessibility need. So if you have questions, be sure to look for those help areas. The rest of the tool is where the real meat of the, which are the sidebar is housed. So this is where we can start adding in our content blocks. Creating and editing content is where we can choose a theme or start editing our banner text or choosing a banner image. We can come in to customize the style, and this is where we'll always find the tools to work with images, links, tables, or lists. Now, notice there's no tools here currently in the customize the style. This is a question I occasionally get in the support portal. Why am I in customize the style and there's no tools here? Well, you do actually have to have an image, link, table, or list selected in order for this area to populate. So if I come in here and I select this image, notice that it opens up with the image tools. So customize the style is responsive to what you have selected in your rich content editor. In the accessibility section, we have 3 different accessibility tools that we'll go over. And then we also have a Get Help section too, with a number of resources that we'll go over during our basic training. But that's the user interface layout. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this page. I'll jump past the next one. It's just a list of the different tools we'll be going over, and we'll go right into building out some content. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this page. And when you're building out a page with design tools, the first thing you want to do is you want to add in a theme to your page. So in order to find the themes, you're going to come to this little puzzle piece here. This is always going to be the theme menu item in your quick links or your jump menu. And that will open up the theme tools. Notice that underneath this institutional themes, we have a number of different buttons down here. If I hover over these buttons, we're going to get a preview of what that particular theme looks like. And notice with the basic or the themes here, you have a stylized heading that's applied to your page, as well as individual style that's added to the content blocks, depending on the theme that you select. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select a theme. It's going to add in that Design Tools wrapper. You can see both the beginning and the end of the Design Tools wrapper and the stylized heading. So adding in a theme is the first thing you're going to do to any page where you want to include a DesignPlus element. If you want to add in a DesignPlus element, but you don't want to have a fancy theme on your page, you do also have this generic theme here. Notice if I select this generic theme, it just adds in the Design Tools wrapper, and it's very basic, it's very generic. So you can come in and add in any piece of DesignPlus that you might want to use, even if you don't want a fancy theme associated with it. But remember, any elements that you're creating with DesignPlus that you want to work on your page do need to be inside of that Design Tools wrapper. So I'm going to go back again and select this theme. And the second thing you're going to do when you are creating a page is you're going to come up to add content blocks. So first add a theme, then add content blocks. It's always going to be up at the top here, and it will give this little box, this little add blocks box here. We can move it around if it's covering content, but notice down here we have institutional block templates. If we wanted to use some of those institutional block templates that we've created in that customizations course, we can come in and we can select any of these. Notice that as I select them, it's creating an individual content block and it's adding it in within my Design Tools wrapper. So again, if you have faculty members that maybe aren't as techy, or if there's pieces that you require on your pages as an institution, creating these block templates help you to add those styles in very easily, and any pre-designed content that you want associated with that content block. So it allows you to pick and choose to add those pieces in. If you want to create your own custom content blocks, you can use this create new content block option up here. And we could say that we want a block on current events. So we can come in, type in the heading that we want associated with that content block. We can hit enter, or we can click on this plus button, and you can see how it's added in a new content block. If we just want an empty content block with just an empty paragraph in there, we don't have to have an heading or a heading. Sorry, it's Monday and I have not had coffee yet. We can come into this create new content blocks area, and we don't have to type in a heading. We can just type enter or the plus button, and it will add in a blank content block. So this can be handy if you are maybe just using a content block to house module progress bars, which is something you get into in the intermediate tools, or maybe just an iframe that you want to include and you don't necessarily need a heading. Having blank content blocks can be handy at certain points. I'm going to go ahead and close this add content blocks, and notice that all of those content blocks that I was creating are listed out over here under add and rearrange content blocks. So if I hover over any of these, it's going to focus in on that content block. If I wanted to duplicate a content block, any content block here, I can come in and I can click on this little duplicate option, and it will create a second content block for me. If I decide, you know what, I don't really need those, I can come in and delete out those content blocks with a red X. And then this current events content block, it doesn't have an icon associated with it yet. Maybe I want it to match up better with those above it. So I'm going to come in and select the little change icon box over here. And since we're working with current events, I'm going to type in news. Notice I have a couple of newspapers. I can look and see which one I think will match best. And now I have an icon associated with that current events content block. Remember, I said that you can also use these content blocks to help you reorganize your page. I showed you how you could delete those content blocks if that content is no longer needed, but you can also drag and drop those individual content blocks around. And if you have an existing page, it makes it very easy. Instead of having to go through and delete out chunks, you can just delete that whole content block or move that content block around. Any questions about adding a theme or adding content blocks to your pages? So far, we have been looking at basic pages. So if I come up to the themes, notice that these are themes for a basic page. We also have front page themes. So I'm going to click over here. Notice that that block does change slightly. There are a few extra themes when we're looking at the front page. Again, though, as I hover over these individual themes, it's going to give me a preview of what that theme looks like. Notice with the front page, we have the stylized heading, but we also have a banner image and some navigation items. There's also an information block that hovers down below this preview. This particular information block is telling us that this theme works best with a banner image that is a 10:3 ratio. A 10:3 ratio, in order to span the width of your Canvas content, needs to be at least 1100 by 330 pixels. That's the size that works best with all of the themes that we provide you, is that 10:3, which again is to span the width of your content without becoming pixelated and hard to view. it should be at least 1100 by 330 pixels. With some of the themes though, notice that the information block changes. This one says that this particular theme requires that 10:3 ratio. The reason that some of the themes require a 10:3 ratio is that the navigation hovers over the banner image. If that image was not large enough, what would happen is the navigation would hover down over your content, making it hard to view. So again, some of those recommend a 10:3 ratio, some of them require a 10:3 ratio, but a 10:3 ratio image is always going to work best with our themes. I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these themes for my page. I now have that stylized heading, my banner image, and some navigation items. And I'm going to come down and I'm just going to work my way down the sidebar here. And I'm going to come to customize the banner text. Now, there are a few pieces within the tools where I highly recommend you edit the text in the sidebar. Let me look at this question real quick. What if you like the general theme but want to change the banner picture? Yes, that's easy to do. We'll get into that in just a moment. All right, so the reason that I say you want to edit the text over here in the sidebar is maybe you have a faculty member who is coming in to try to edit the text in the rich content editor, and they start deleting, and maybe they delete one too many times, and now they are trying to get back into the right area, and it just breaks the style. You can see that that's all out of sorts now. Where if you teach your faculty members to come over here and change the banner text in the sidebar, we can come into unit name and type in whatever we need. We can use our tab key to move through these different text fields. And it makes it much easier to edit that stylized heading without breaking the style. With the subtitle and description, if we want to add in a subtitle, we can come in here to this next area and start typing in a subtitle, any subtitle we want. Same thing with description, but notice that it's adding these sections into our stylized heading. So you really only have to add in whichever fields you want into this area here. You can leave any field that you don't want blank. So we could even come in and get rid of welcome, or if we took out the Cidilabs, it would take away that circle. So you can pick and choose which sections you want completed. Notice that there is a toggle up here. This is the Show Canvas Title toggle. When Canvas released their very generic heading ones a few years ago, we already had a number of our users that had the stylized headings from the tools. So they didn't necessarily want to have that large heading one showing up all of a sudden, because often it was redundant information. So by default, we turn off that Canvas title. For your visual students, they're not seeing that redundant information at the top, but for your screen reading students, they still have access to that heading one. So it doesn't cause confusion for them, and it doesn't muck up the page for your visual learning students. So we turn that Canvas title off by default. Now, there was a change that was made last fall. The tool Ally, if your school subscribes to it, decided to link their alternative formats tool with the Canvas heading. So now if we recognize that Ally is running, we have to turn that Canvas title on. So you may see that redundant information. The reason for that is accessibility always trumps style. So if we recognize there is Ally running on the page, we want your students to have access to those alternative format tools. So that heading will show up. We do have an update though, I believe it was in our March release notes, where a school can go in and make a slight change to their script and move the alternative formats tool on their page, so it's no longer linked to that H1 heading. And that's something that you can look into. I think it's the March release notes where Kenneth gave you that option, because we had so many institutions that were frustrated that the heading was all of a sudden showing up. Working down our sidebar, the next thing we're coming to is choosing a banner image. So it's always going to come in with a default banner image that your institution has set up, or if you're brand new to the tools and your institution didn't set up a default banner image, it's going to be just one of our images here. But if we come in to choose a banner image, notice down below here, we have any images that our institution has submitted. So we can come in here and we can choose any of those institutional images. If your institution has not submitted images and you have some that you would like to use, you have two ways of adding those in. You can either send us the images that you want used through a support ticket, and we will upload them to our server and reply back to you with the URL, so that when we get to the customizations course, you're able to add in or change out images as needed. If your institution has easy access to server space, then you're also welcome to upload those images on your server. And again, when we get to the customizations course, I'll show you how to change those or add those. But you do have these institutional images that will show up. So for those faculty members who may not want to get in and try to create a 10x3 image themselves, they do have some easy options that they can come in here and select from. So I usually recommend institutions at least have a couple images available for faculty members. But if I scroll down a little bit further, notice I also have course images. So these are the images that are in my course files, and I can select any of these. But a lot of times those images are not cropped in a way that really works best with your screen space, like this frog here. It's very large. So if I wanted to use an image that maybe was not the best size to use, or I wanted to use an image that was not yet in my course files, that's when the Upload Embed image tool comes in handy. So I'm just going to go back up and select one of these images that I know is already a 10x3, just for the ease of it. I'm going to go ahead and select this image. So I selected the image. You can see how it's selected here. And I'm going to come in to the three dots here. And what I'm looking for is this little blue icon. This is the Upload Embed image tool that's part of the DesignPlus package, not to be confused with Canvas's native upload or images tool. Ours is blue and has this little cropping look to it. If you don't see that, you may find it underneath the plugin icon. This is where you can find your additional LTI tools. Canvas did make it so that you can tag your most used, your favorite LTI tools as an institution and make that Upload Embed image tool available right next to the plugin, so you don't have to dig quite as far. But you are looking for this little blue icon. I'm going to go ahead and select it. Remember, I did have that image selected in the page before I opened this up. And now we have a variety of different ways that we can select an image. We can come in to our computer files and find an image on our computer. We could use one of our Canvas files. Maybe we really wanted to use that frog, but it was such an off size. We want to crop it down to fit that 10x3 area better. So we can select any of those images. We can search Pexels or Unsplash. Instead of having to search them ahead of time, we can come in and type in our keyword and find an image here and then crop it to reach that 10x3 ratio. If you are a K-12 though, since I know I do have some K-12 on today, some institutions do make it so that Unsplash and Pexels aren't options when you're using this tool. The reason for this is that students often have access to this tool too, and maybe they don't want them searching for images on Pexels or Unsplash. So I do have some K-12 that opt to turn those off. Public URL, if there is an image on a public URL that you want to pull in and crop, you have the ability to do that too. But I'm going to come back to computer and I am going to just select an image from my computer. It'll pull that image in here. I can see that this image is plenty large to meet the 10:3 ratio, which again is 1100 by 330 pixels. So let me go ahead, I'll type that in for you too. So you want it to be at least 1100 by 330 pixels. And since this is going to be a banner image and I know I want it to be that pixel ratio, I am going to come into this cropping feature here. And I can come down to image ratio, and notice we have some predetermined ratios for you. Of course, 10:3 is one of them, since that works best with our banner images. I'm going to go ahead and select that. Now it gives me this 10:3 cropping area, so I can drag and pull and move this block around until I get it exactly how I want it to look in my banner image area. If this image was slightly skewed, notice that you can rotate it over here. You are able to zoom in or zoom out. If you're a keyboard keyboard user and want to use your arrow keys, those work too. You can also type in your own custom ratios if you were using this somewhere else. You do have that 1:1 if you were looking just to crop a perfect square. But once you have that image cropped, then you're going to come down to crop image. And notice that, okay, so it has the preset of 1100 by 330. We can see still we're good to go there. We can come in and we can type in our file name if we want to clean up that file name. We can type in our alt text here. If this file was one we were pulling from our course files and the file name already existed, we could overwrite it if we chose to, so we didn't have both copies of the image in our files. We can choose where we want to store this image. So it'll show us our file structure here, and we can come in and select whatever file we want it stored in. Notice next to this blue button here, we do have this little arrow. If we wanted to save this image as our course image on our dashboard, we can do that here. If we want to upload this image to our Canvas course files to use later, maybe we're just going through and uploading all of our images at once, we can just save it to our Canvas course files. If we are cropping this image to use outside of Canvas, maybe we don't want to use it in our course at all. Maybe we want to use it somewhere else outside of Canvas. We can download that image and use it anywhere else we need to, but I'm going to stick with upload and embed. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. It's going to upload the image to my Canvas course files and embed it over or in that area where I had selected the image. Now, the new rich content editor that Canvas released does have a lot of quirks in it. In order to overcome one of those quirks, we do add in space after the image, just in case you wanted to add something else in under there. Usually when we are putting a new element within the Canvas interface, we do give you extra space just because it can be hard to get the extra space. But I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And now I have that banner image embedded at that 10:3 ratio, 1100 by 330 pixels area there in my banner. Now, one other thing with that upload embed image tool, I'm going to go back into it. Instead of cropping an image to that 10:3 ratio, if I wanted to choose a certain size, I can use the image tools here to crop that down to whatever size I want, or to make that image smaller. So the presets, if you just wanted this image within your content on your page and it only needed to fill 25% of your canvas width, instead of pulling in this huge image that's going to take up space and take time for it to load on your students' screens, especially if they have limited internet, you could instead pull it in at this 275 by 413 pixels. So again, that just makes it easier and quicker to upload. So if you're not editing a banner image where you would go into that crop function, you can stay on this main page and just import an image. So if I came here to this 25% and upload an embedded, it would pull it in at a much smaller size. And it would be the perfect size, especially if I was just importing it into content. Instead of having this huge image that I then have to scale down, it would pull it in at a good size, a good pixel amount for the amount of screen space it needs to take up. Any other questions on the banner images? Okay. Moving down the sidebar again, the next thing we're going to come to is add and edit navigation block. Now, you're always going to start out with these 4 default items here. You can see that they're listed over here in the bar. And this is another one of those sections where I highly recommend you teach your faculty members how to edit them in the sidebar. Canvas has done some really weird things in the new rich content editor with links. You may have noticed it. It's a frustration I hear about a lot right now since the move over to the new rich content editor. So you're always going to start out with these 4 items here, but you can come in and you can customize these in any way. If I maybe wanted this to say begin here instead of start here, or I wanted to completely rename syllabus, then I can come in here and edit the text. You can see how it updates it automatically. With the navigation, you can have a maximum of 8 items in the navigation. So if I wanted to add in additional items up to 8, I can use this add item button. Now, as I select that twice, you can see how it's added in 2 new items. Notice that they do not have a link destination set to them yet. So navigation items are always set up as empty links. Even if they don't have a destination to them yet, they're still set up as links. So that's one thing we need to pay attention to. When you are typing your text into these navigation items, you do want to be aware of how many characters or how much text you're putting into them, because as a screen browser constricts or expands, it may or may not be able to fit a large amount of text in here, and it will truncate that text. So it will, if we had a very small screen and it could only fit more, it would have 3 dots after the more. So you do want to pay attention to how much text. They're only meant to accommodate a small amount of text. With these 2 new items, I could come in and I could rename them. Notice again, they do not have icons associated with them. So just like with the content blocks, we can come in here, click on that gray button. Instead of typing in a keyword this time, maybe we want to look at what we have for audio video icons. And we could say, okay, this one is actually going to be announcements. And this one is going to be lectures that I want my students to listen to. So you can come in and select some icons. They now match up a bit better with those above them. I can again drag and drop and move those different items around. If I want to set a destination to the links, this is where I have to take a step back and just talk about how Canvas updates links. So when you are creating a brand new link in Canvas, you're just going to come into the text and highlight it, and then you would choose a new destination for it. Now, notice you do have Canvas course content links over here. So if we wanted to come in and have this take us to a page or to a Canvas navigation item, maybe I want it to take me to the syllabus, I can come in and select that, and that turns it into a link to the syllabus. But the problem isn't with creating an initial link. The problem comes when we are updating existing links. So often faculty members will try to come in and highlight an existing link and then choose a new destination. What happens is when you highlight an existing link is often you will get, especially if you're going outside of Canvas, a little pile up of icons, square icons with arrows that come after them. You may have seen them in some courses before. And that comes from highlighting an existing link. So highlighting an existing link is not the correct way to update an existing link. What those icons are they are remnants left over of your previous links. So depending on how many times those have been updated over time, you're going to get a larger pile up of those icons. For your faculty members and your students, they probably have no idea what those icons are and just ignore them. But for your screen reading students, they have to endure all of those icons when they're going through the links in the script. So you don't want to update an existing link by highlighting. What you want to do is you just want to put your cursor inside of a link and choose a new destination. So again, to update an existing link, these are existing links. They're empty, but they're existing links right now. I'm just going to put my cursor inside of that item and choose a destination. And again, that will keep you from getting that pile up of remnants and that messy HTML in your page. So these won't update automatically. The broken links won't go away automatically, but if we come in here to refresh list, you can see that now that item has a destination associated with it. I mentioned how you can have up to 8 navigation items. Those 8 navigation items are broken into 2 lists, and that's where the split list feature comes into play. So currently, since this says split list at 4, what it's going to do whenever the browser is wide enough to accommodate it, it will fit 4 of these items on the top row. To give you an idea of what that looks like, remember we're splitting list at 4. I'm going to come into the choose a theme tool, and I'm just going to hover over a few of these. So notice split list at 4, it's putting 4 of those navigation items on the top list. Then it's splitting it and pushing the other 2 down. So 4 items and then splitting the list and putting the other 2 down below. So that's what split list at 4 means. If I come back in, since I have 6 items here, whenever the browser can accommodate it, I want it to split it at 3. So again, if I come up to choose a theme and I hover over some of these, you can see how it is splitting those items at 3. So we have an even 3 number of items on each side in this one. Are the course navigation links automatically set up, or will teachers need to link each navigation block? So with those that are here by default, they have a link set up to them. But for if they want to include another navigation item, they would have to set those up themselves. So again, you just want to make sure you teach them to not highlight and not use the native Canvas insert links. I'll show you real quick. This isn't a DesignPlus thing. This is actually a new Canvas thing with the new rich content editor. But if I come up and I say I want to change this link here, if I come up to insert and try to use the options here, maybe instead I want this to take me to just, does it let me, let's see, I was thinking it let me just come in and do Cidilabs. No version. Okay, so if I come in and do that and I click on done, notice that it breaks the styling of that link. So now it's offset and it takes away the icon here. So using the options up here, sometimes it throws it in the middle. So if I was trying to, let's see, I was thinking, can't remember where Canvas put that now, but if I come into course documents and was trying to link to one of those, it just kind of, sometimes it throws that link into the middle of the text there. So it's really become kind of a mess in Canvas to update links. So again, you always want to try to update your links in the sidebar. Since this is broken, if I notice that right away, I can come up here and I can do this undo, and it will take me those steps back to get to the styling that I need. Now, notice when I split the list at 3, it does look funny here in the rich content editor. The reason is that because of the width of the rich content editor here, it can't accommodate 3 in one line. But for your students, if they're looking at it in a regular browser, it will show up right. Or they'll have 3 in each line. It is meant to be responsive to how big the text needs to be for accessibility purposes. So it can look a bit funny at certain browser sizes, especially in the rich content editor, but once the page is saved, it will be fine. Any other questions about the navigation block? So if we go into the navigation, we can split it here. Let's say we want to split it at 2 this time. Now it's going to have 2. If I come up to choose a theme, or if I try to, I didn't want to do that, but you can see how, well, now it doesn't want to, there we go. There's a preview of how it's splitting it at 3. Okay. Any other questions there? All right. So we've learned how to apply a theme to a page, how to add in content blocks, and how to work with a front page theme. Now, the front page themes can actually be used anywhere within your content. You don't just have to use them on your front page. Let's say that you wanted to use this style on a page on any content page, but maybe we didn't want to have the navigation on that page, or we didn't want to have the image here. We could actually come up to work with our add and rearrange content blocks, and we could delete out the navigation. So we'd still have that heading and a banner image, but we could just build out content blocks underneath it. So you can come in and delete out any of those parts of a front page too. Okay, a couple other things with the Upload Embed Image tool. I mentioned how you could use it to put an image elsewhere on your page, not just for the banner image, but if you wanted to include an image here within our text, all we would need to do is put our cursor image at this point and upload and embed it here, and it would put it in that location. I mentioned that students also have access to the Upload Embed Image tool usually. So if you have a course admin that is uploading and embedding an image to the course files, it's going to save that image in the course files. If you have a student who's uploading and embedding an image to maybe an assignment or a discussion, it's going to save that image to the student's personal files. So you don't have to worry about students' uploads impacting the course. They're not saved in that course. They're saved in the student's personal files. All right, so when working with the tools, number 1, you're going to add in a theme to your page. And then 2, you're going to go in and add in content blocks. If we're working with a front page, again, you're still going to add in a theme, but then you want to make sure that you are always updating, and I guess this is for basic page and front pages, you want to update the banner text in the sidebar. That'll keep it from breaking the style. And you want to edit your navigation in the sidebar. That's really important for faculty members to know, because sometimes they can get in and they're working with a page and they try to edit that banner text and they see that it's broken and they become frustrated. So teaching them how to edit the banner text and the navigation in the sidebar goes a great deal into how their adoption of the tool will work for them and how satisfied they'll be with the tools. So next, we're going to go into the multi-tool. The multi-tool, remember, is that real time-saving piece. So I have this blank course open. When you want to turn on the multi-tool, you want to go down to settings within your course, and then you're going to go to navigation. You're going to scroll down to the bottom and you can drag up the multi-tool, or you can always click on the 3 dots to enable it. Make sure you hit save. And then the multi-tool will be an option over here in the sidebar. This is not something that you have to hide after enabling it. Students will not see it, only your course admins. But I'm going to go ahead and select the multi-tool, and then we'll see we have a number of additional tools to work with here. So we're going to start with the template builder. Now, at the top of the template builder page, we do have this button that says it's going to create home front page. What this is going to do is it's going to create a page within your course, and it's going to mark it as the front page and publish it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Then we have 2 new options that show up. If we wanted to jump to the front page to start editing it, we can use this button here. But we're just going to go ahead and we are going to select this link to set the home page to direct us to the front page. So instead of, if you've been working with Canvas for a while, if instead of having to jump around on a couple of different pages with a number of clicks to get your front page designated and get the home link to take you there, now you can do that with just 2 clicks on this page in the multi-tool. So below is where we're going to start building out our templates. We're going to build out a quick course, and we're going to think about what pages we want to show up module after module in this course. So we want to create a page, and we're going to come in here. We're going to call it Overview, where we're going to introduce our students to that module's theme or topic. We can hit enter, or we can click on this Create Template Page button, and it's going to start listing out my template pages down here. So what it's done at this point is it has created a blank page. If we went into pages, we would see a page that has this designated name of template and then the name of the page. In this course, we also want to have maybe it's a lab course. We're going to have a lab assignment. We want to have a group discussion and an end of unit quiz. And if we had multiple assignments, we could create different templates for each one of those that is going to show up in multiple modules. You don't have to just create one. You can create as many templates as you wish. And it will start listing those down here for us. This is where we can start going in and building out those templates. So I'm going to come into this overview template. It's going to open up a new tab for me and have it ready for me to edit. So since this is a new page, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a theme. So I'm going to come up to the puzzle piece and select a theme. I'm not going to update the text in my heading right now, but I need to build out this page. So I'm going to come up to add content blocks. I'm going to maybe give them an introduction, maybe some objectives, a list of readings, a list of lectures and assignments they need to do for this week. So this is just going to be my overview to the module. I can build this out as completely as I wish. So if there's just some fill in the blank areas within some of these content blocks where I don't want to have to keep copying and pasting or repeating myself, I can build these out as fully as needed. The reason I'm not going to edit the heading at this time is it will actually update it automatically as I push this out to my modules. I'm going to go ahead and save this this template. We can take a look and see how it's going to look here. Looks good. I'm going to go ahead and close out that page and come back into the multi-tool. And then I would continue working through my templates and building out those pages. If you are building out quizzes and discussions and assignments. Some of those more advanced settings, such as threaded discussions or one question at a time on a quiz, you can set those up at the template level, and it will follow those down as you push them out to your courses or your modules. For time's sake, we're going to say that we've already built those out, and we're going to move on to the next step, which is the module builder. Now, with the module builder, we're going to say that in this course, we want to call our modules weeks. But notice we don't have to choose module pretext if we don't, or prefix if we don't want to. If we want to type in our own custom prefix, we can choose that too. But for this one, we're just going to call them weeks. This is a short course. It's just going to be 3 weeks, and I want it to start at week 1. I want each module to have a page. I'm going to call it Overview. And I want to pull in that overview template that we just created. I want there to be a lab assignment. I'm going to pull in the lab template. It's going to be submitted online, and it's going to be worth 50 points and displayed as a points value. I want a discussion, and I can give these names if I choose, but if they're going to change from module to module, I may not want to at this point. I am going to pull in the group template, and this is going to be worth 20 points and displayed as a points value. And there's going to be a quiz. So again, I will pull in that template. This is just an outline for a typical module within this course. I'm going to go ahead and generate the module list. This is what will show me an outline for each one of those individual modules. So notice here we have week 1, week 2, and week 3, and this is where I can go in and start fine-tuning those individual modules. I haven't created the modules in the module page yet. All we have right now is outlines for these modules. I'm going to say that week 1, I want it to be called Welcome to Course. Week 2, we'll just call it Midterm Week. Week 3, we'll just call it Finals Week. So we can give our modules a name. Now in week 1, I don't actually want there to be a quiz that week, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that piece. But I do want there to be an extra discussion. Maybe my students are going to introduce themselves to one another. Maybe I can still use that group template, but this one's only going to be worth 10 points. So I can add in that extra piece and I can drag it. Maybe I want it up earlier in my module layout. I can do that. Let's see, midterm week looks good, but finals week, I need there to be an additional quiz. Maybe it's not going to be the same template as my end of unit quiz. This is going to be a pre-test of sorts, a review. So I'm going to pull it up maybe a little bit earlier in my module 2. So this again is where I'm fine-tuning those modules. Notice that we have this checkbox here. If I come through and I uncheck that, it's turning off this week 2 prefix so that not all of my pages will have that prefix. And I'll show you what that will look like in just a bit. Also notice though that you have these zeros. If you use the indentation feature on your modules page as a way to visually organize the content on that page, you can set up your indentations here. At this point, once you have your modules built out, you have 2 options. Saving progress will save these outlines for you for 2 weeks without creating all of the pages. That gives you time to come back in and tweak these modules until they're exactly how you want them. If you're an instructional designer, it gives you time to run it by the faculty member to make sure you're not missing pieces. But the save progress will save these outlines for you for 2 weeks. If you come in during those 2 weeks and work on these outlines, it will restart that countdown for you. So it wants to see that you're actively in here working on this course. You can imagine with a number of institutions, they have 16-week terms. Maybe you even have multiple modules within a week. That can be a lot of additional information that is bogging down your course in your Canvas instance. So if we see that you haven't worked on these in 2 weeks, it will remove this outline, just so you don't have all of that extra clutter slowing down your course. but if you come in, it will restart that. We're going to say that our module layout is good though. We have everything we need. We're going to go ahead and add these modules to my course. You can see how it's creating all of those individual elements. When I was an instructional designer at Utah State, we'd meet with a faculty member in the morning for an hour. We'd spend all afternoon to a couple of days building out that course shell. And then we'd give it over to the faculty member. Now, most of the time, we meet with a faculty member and they walk out with that course shell already made. They already have that momentum and excitement going. They can go back to their office and get right in there and start putting their content in. So now we can see that the 3 modules I've created are listed out above here. If we expand all, we can see each individual module. This is where it starts becoming handy, even if you're not creating a brand new course. Let's say you're rolling over a course from a new semester. You did create your course in a module setup. Even if you're brand new to the tools, you just adopted the tools, but you've created your course in modules. They're going to be listed out here. We can expand, add in any additional components, move those pieces around, delete out pieces. It's very easy to manipulate your modules in the module builder. If you were trying to delete a module on the modules page, it will delete the module, but it will not delete the content, which creates a mess in your course, especially for those students who need a streamlined course for accessibility accommodations. This delete module and contents will, if let's say that we are no longer covering this subject anymore and we just want to get rid of that module completely and replace it with something else, we can delete the module and all contents so that all of those extra pages and whatever else are not bogging down our course. How did you use indentation in the module builder? So the indentation is the zeros here. I'm going to go over to the modules page and you'll be able to see that each one of those modules is listed out. There's that indentation. Notice that those week 2s that I unchecked, those are not listed here, where week 1 and week 3 have those. If I come into any of those overviews, I did pull in that template we created. So you can see those template pages and we can get in there and start putting in our content. Again, you can complete that as fully as needed so you're not repeating yourself. Notice how it's updated that heading on the top of our pages. So when I said not to edit it in the template creator, you can see how it did update it automatically. So I'm going to come into the modules, or I'm sorry, not the modules, the multi-tool. Again, I'm going to come back to the module builder. If, like last year, a lot of faculty members needed to move around weeks as we transition to online schooling, you can quickly come in and drag and drop those weeks around. You would want to come back in and change all of these week 3s to week 2s. But it does make it really easy to come in and delete out, move around modules, move around pieces, add in pieces, makes all of that very easy. If we needed to add in additional modules, let's say this course was extended, we need to add on 2 more weeks and it's going to start at week 4. Since we already have weeks 1 through 3, I want this to start at week 4. Again, I would come in, build out that layout that I want, add in any titles or apply any templates, generate the module list, fine-tune those modules, and now it's creating those pieces, and we will then have weeks 4 and 5. Are there a max number of modules the module multi-tool can build? No, but it can take a little bit longer depending on how much is in those modules and how many modules there are. Is it possible to duplicate an existing module from the module builder? Good question. So if I come in to expand, no, it does not look like that. You would have to just go to the modules page and duplicate it. So you come in here and duplicate it from there. Yep. Okay, I think we went over everything with the module builder. Any other questions at all when it comes to the module builder? All right, so we're going to move on to the next step then. This is the due date modifier. All of those pieces that we created in that previous step of the module builder are going to be listed out down here for us. Now, if you're new to the tools and this is your first time working with them, but you use the Canvas option to roll over your due dates, Canvas does a decent job about rolling over due dates, but there's always going to be a holiday or something in there where you need to go in and tweak a due date. So it will list out all of your due dates here for you, and you can come in and start working with those. Since this is a new course, there's no existing due dates yet. There are some settings that I recommend setting up first before editing due dates. Date format, I don't know if I have anybody that's outside the US today, but if you have a different date format, you can set that up here. Blackout dates, this is great for those of us that are forgetful. So let's say we want to go in at the beginning of the term and before we set any of our due dates, and we want to add in some blackout dates. Maybe we have a conference on those days and we're going to be out of the classroom and don't want to have anything due. Maybe there's a holiday here. So we can come in and we can select any of those due dates and set them up, or I'm sorry, blackout dates and set them up at the beginning of the term so that when we go in to select a due date, we can see that there's something going on. If there are days of the week that you don't particularly want something due, we can come in and just select those days. We can set up default times. So it's always going to be set to 11:59, but if we wanted instead this to be 8 o'clock a.m., we could set that. But just to show you how those work with this assignment 1, if I wanted to come in and set a due date, notice those blackout dates are listed out here. They're grayed out, so I can't select them. So it's a reminder that, oh, there was something going on. I don't want to have something due that day. That blackout dates is a user by user setting, so that will follow you on to your other courses. Since it is a user by user setting though, it's not something that can be set up institution wide. And if you have other faculty members in the course, they will not see those days. This is just based on you as a user. But I can come in and I can select a date. It did pull in that 11:59. If I didn't like 11:59 and I wanted it to be 8, I can go ahead and set it up there. And any future due dates, new due dates that I'm setting, it would pull in that default time. Now, update, we do recommend as you're going through your due dates to update as you're going through them. If your internet was to crash or something and you had dozens upon dozens of due dates you had already set up, it's frustrating. We do have the update all down at the bottom. So if you forget to update as you're going through them, you can update all, but you never know when internet's going to crash or you lose connection. So we do recommend updating as you go through. Let's say we have a faculty member who has a discussion that they set up to be due on Mondays throughout the term, but they're finding that Mondays are not working for them and their students, and they want to make a change. They want to change all of those Monday discussions to a Wednesday instead. You have some filters here, so I could come in, I could filter out all of the discussions. So I'm going to go in and select those discussions that I want to change. And then I could go up to the bulk updates. And if all of these were set to a Monday, I could say that I want to add 2 days on. I would change those dates, update Canvas, and then all of those selected discussions would be moved from a Monday to a Wednesday. Same thing goes, let's say you have a spring break or something in here. We could come in, clear the filters, and we could look for, maybe we need to look for week 3. We could use the search function here and we could say, okay, all of these week 3 items, I want to move out or back. We could put -7 here, update dates, update Canvas, and it would move that full week of assignment due dates at once. Any questions on the due date modifier? So the next piece is the post-dated announcement modifier. If we are rolling over this course from another semester and we had post-dated announcements, of course, Canvas tries to modify those for you, but this will list out those post-dated announcements just like it did with the due dates, and allow you to come in and quickly work through those and manipulate those on one site or on one page, or move them all ahead a week, forward or back as needed. Okay, so that is it for the multi-tool. Again, this is the piece that can be a huge time saver for you. If you're building out a brand new course, it can build out everything at once, or even if you're rolling over a course from another semester, it does have a number of handy features in here to make that a little bit easier to tweak. Any questions on any of the pieces within the multi-tool?
Just a quick question about the announcement,
Sure.
delayed announcement modifier. So I think I might have missed it, but you can't manipulate it unless you already have announcements made.
Correct. Yeah, because it's post-dated announcements.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So if you're rolling over all of your announcements term after term and you just needed to move the dates around, then it's to help with that.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so next we're going to look at copying existing content. This is a way to give yourself a head start on a page. So it's always going to be used as a starting point. I'm going to come into edit, and the copy existing content is going to show up in the jump menu as kind of a reddish, orangish, brown color here. I'm going to go ahead and select it. If it doesn't show up in your jump menu, it's just under create and edit content, you'll find it there. But this is where you can pull in some starting points for a page. If we had template pages built out within our course, it would list those templates that were specific to our course here. Notice that when I selected that though, it did overwrite what was currently in the rich content editor. So that's why I say these are to be used as starting points. Between the tools in Canvas, they aren't quite smart enough to know how to blend content, because typically if you're, so maybe you don't even have a theme on your page yet, content blocks aren't going to match up. So it doesn't know how to blend that content for you. So it is a starting point. So if we had overwritten our content on accident, we would again come up to that undo button and it would take us that step back so we could get our content back easily. With course pages, maybe there is a page within this course that you want to use as a starting point because there's just a few things that you need to go in and edit. This will allow you to pull in any pages and use those to get started. Institutional templates, those are those pieces that you can create in the customizations course. So if we were creating a get started page for our courses at our institution and we wanted faculty members to all use this template, then we could come into the institutional templates and pull in that starting page. And this has some notes in here telling the faculty member what they need to edit, so they can come in and use that template to update their information. With the module builder, let's say you had an overview page that you wanted to all faculty members to use in all of their courses, or if you had a specific module templates you wanted pulled in just to create that consistency between all courses. When you're in that template builder phase of the module builder, you would come into those institutional templates, and maybe you have an overview template, you would pull it in, and then from that template, you could push that overview template out to all of your modules as you're using the module builder. Copy content by URL. Sometimes you're working in a course and you're building out a page and you realize, you know what, I built out a similar table a couple semesters ago in another course, and it would be handy if I could just pull that in. Well, Canvas has an easy way to pull in full courses, but sometimes having to go through and pull in a single page can be time consuming. So if we wanted to just quickly go and find that page's URL, what we could do is we would get the URL. We want to make sure we have the specific page identifiers on it, on that URL, not just the course number. That won't work, and it will give you a notice letting you know that. But we could take that URL, paste it in here, and it would pull in that page from your other course. Now, one thing you need to know though about pulling in a page from another course is Canvas does have an issue sharing files between courses. So if you have any linked assets on that page, linked assets are things such as images and other types of files, then you will want to make sure that you download those items to your computer and re-upload them to your current course. They may show up for you on a page as an admin within a course, but for your students who don't have access to that previous course's files, they will show up as broken. So if there's any linked assets on that other page, then you want to make sure you pull them over to your current course. One last thing for today. This is something that we used to teach in a later training, but over the past year, we found a lot of faculty members, foreign language instructors, moving online. So the language accent characters came about when Kenneth, the developer of the tools, was in the office one day. He overheard one of the instructional designers talking to a foreign language instructor, and they were having a hard time trying to remember what a keyboard shortcut was for a particular character. So he thought, if faculty members or instructional designers are having such a hard time finding this information, it must be really hard for students. So that's where this tool came about. Now, to turn this tool on, this is a course by course setting, so it's not part of any of the comfort levels. We do have to scroll all the way down to the bottom and turn it on from here. Notice that this language accents pops up, and then that is turned on for the course. Once it's turned on for the course, both faculty members and students have access to language accents. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's say I'm going to need to use language accents on this page here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my language accents tool. I can choose whatever language I want to type in, and I can start typing in here. Maybe I want to add a U with an umlaut and a double S, and we can switch back and forth and use those different language accent characters. It also tells you the keyboard shortcut too. But we have a few different languages here. If there is a language that you use at your institution and it's not listed here yet, reach out to us. Make sure you have maybe a faculty member or a specialist that knows what characters would be needed to help us build that out. But we have been able to add in quite a few in the past year. Hawaiian, a Japanese instructor said this was the most useful set of characters for them. So really you can come in here and choose any of those and reach out to us if there's additional languages that you need. Now for your students though, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. It shows up in the same general area for students when they're working on a discussion or a quiz or an assignment, but I'm going to come into this example quiz. And since I've turned that language accents tool on for this course, I'm going to come in and preview this quiz and notice that language accents shows up over here. So I can come in, open that up, and use that as I'm working within any text entry areas on my assignments, quizzes, or discussions. All right. Any questions at all on anything we went over today? So for core training 2, we will be going over, just so you have an idea, we'll be going over the basic styling tools. So working with our images, links, tables, and lists. We'll look at the 3 accessibility tools we have for you, a few pieces that are unique to the syllabus, styling iframes, because that can be a pain to do within Canvas. And then I'll give a quick makeover to a very vanilla HTML page and update it with the design tool style. Now, the course that we're going through in this training, it is available in Canvas Commons. So if you want to pull it in to play with until tomorrow's training, if you want to play around with any of those pieces we took a look at today, so you can come back with any questions, you're more than welcome to come in here to the Commons and pull that in. It's called DesignPlus Functional User Training. So if you look up DesignPlus or Cidilabs in Commons, then you should be able to find it there, pull it into your own course shell, use it for your own training purposes at your institution if you'll be training faculty and staff. Yeah, come back with any questions. I do typically have about 10 minutes at the end of the core training too to answer any questions. And thank you for joining me today. I will see you all next time. Bye.